example. It's a young Filipino lady in our church. Received the Holy Ghost, was baptized, and just really excited about her new life. She had worked for the same employer for a number of years. And the employer was an elderly lady, but she had a single son that was not yet married, in his early 30s, which is very common in Singapore. A lot of the young people, most of them don't get married, late 20s, early 30s. And he was not yet married, and he had a job that required him to travel a lot. And so they would, from time to time, the travel agency would deliver airline tickets to their home. And this young lady would always receive their airline tickets. She would go outside, they would ring the gate, and she would go out and receive from a courier and sign for the tickets. It was a fairly common thing in this household. This young lady had only had the Holy Ghost just 2 or 3 months, was still very new in the Lord. On this particular day, the doorbell rang. She went outside, and the courier, as she had done many times, had tickets for her. She just signed for them and brought the envelope back in. And when she walked into the house, in the entryway, there was a small table, and she laid the tickets there so that this young man would have those tickets. That was the place she always put them. And she went about her normal duties of cleaning the house. As she was cleaning and dusting, she came through, and as she passed by these tickets, she just got a foreboding feeling in her spirit. And she thought, well, it was just crazy. It was nonsense. She didn't think that much about it, and she went about cleaning. And in the process, the doorbell rang, and somebody else had come to the door for something, and she went, and as she went to the door, she had to pass those tickets again. And this time she just noticed that every time she went through that part of the house, that she just got a funny feeling. At first she didn't associate it with the tickets, but she got to praying, and she said, God, I don't understand what I'm feeling, but I felt this 2 or 3 times this morning. And so she said, God, would you help me to understand what's going on here? And as she was praying, she started walking and praying, and she got close to where those tickets were laying again. And and that was where the feeling was strong. Now some of you are thinking, Weirdsville. She's just a new convert. She didn't know what was really going on, except she made the association that something wasn't right about those tickets. So her employer was out of the house, had gone to the market, comes back. And she tells him, she says, ma'am, because she asked God, what am I supposed to do about this? And so she told the employer. Now, how do you go and explain to your employer this story I just told you? Now, Chinese folks are really superstitious already. And how are they going to understand, if this is God or just some weird something or another? Because, we have a Hungry Ghost Festival, folks. Where they put out meals to feed the ghost. So that you had to be careful. When I first started preaching the Holy Ghost, they didn't know if I was preaching Holy Ghost or Hungry Ghost. Big difference. But this young lady felt when she prayed, God said, you got to tell your employer. And so she said, ma'am, she said, I don't know how to explain this to you, she said, because I don't really understand it myself. She said, but all I can tell you, and she says, there's something wrong with those tickets. And the lady said, she said, why are you saying that? She said, because when I pray, that's how I feel. That's what I know. And the lady said, I have seen such a transformation in your life in the last 2 or 3 months that I am going to believe what you are telling me. And what I want to know from you now is, what should I do? And the little house cleaner, Filipino, now you have to understand, in the hierarchy of things, she's just a housekeeper in a rich family's home. She's a servant girl. And now the patriarch of the family is asking her advice and saying, what should I do? And the little maid says, if it was me, I would tell my son not to go on that trip. And she says, okay, that's what I'll do. The boy comes home from work that day, and the mother brings him in and says, you are not going on your business trip tomorrow. He says, why not? And she says, because the maid says something's wrong with those tickets. The maid says something's wrong with those tickets. I mean, what? I mean, did they put a wrong date? Did they put it? No. She just says there's something that she gets a bad feeling about those tickets. And the son's like, Mom, it's an important. She said, I'm telling you, boy, you're not going on the trip. So he says, okay, if it makes you happy, I won't go on the trip. The next morning, the newspaper comes, and the headlines is MI 185 Silk Air flight from Surabaya, Indonesia has crashed, and there are no survivors. With trembling hands, the young man goes and pulls out the ticket, and he was booked on flight MI 185, business class. How glad do you think he was that there was a little Filipino maid that could hear the voice of God, not even fully understanding what was going on, but just willing to step out in faith and say, I serve a God that talks to me. He walks with me. He's concerned about my life. He's concerned about the details of my life. He wants to protect me. That protection extended not only to a Filipino girl, but to her extended work family. God wanted to prove himself big in that home. I'm telling you, they called all of the relatives. They booked a big banquet place in Singapore, and they had about 50 of their relatives come, and they put her in a place of honor and said, this girl has saved my son's life. Because she has an experience with her God, Jesus. It became a testimony to them that there is a God in heaven that loves us, that cares about us. I started telling you a story. I believe I actually told part of this story. Can't remember when. So I haven't lost my mind. I know I did. And it is true. I've already preached all the 20 best messages I got. We're getting close to the bottom of the barrel. But while I was in New England, I got a couple of new ones, so it's going to be all right. So I'm not repeating myself because I don't have anything else to say. But I'd like to go into a little more detail. When I arrived in Singapore,